Well, I'd like to welcome everybody here today. And the people that don't know me, my name is Stanley Howell. I'm one of the owners of Life Giving Nutritional Store. And like I said before, my partner, he's in the white hat back there. I appreciate everybody coming here today. These are the people that care about people, believe me. A lot of people drove a long ways to get here, and they care about their health, and they care about the people they love and care about. And it's a good feeling to be in a room with a bunch of people that really care about themselves and other people. So I appreciate you all coming here. So, and today we have I'm putting it on, Life Giving Nutritional Center, and I have two friends of mine, Marlene and Barbara, and I'm going to introduce them in a minute, and they'll talk for a couple of minutes here and introduce themselves, and we're putting this on together. And I have a couple things I want to share with you before we start. And we have oral photography here today, so you can go back to, like I mentioned before, and you can use that. And we have food back here. We're going to take 3 breaks, all right, because it's 3 hours long, so we're going to take breaks in between. And first he's going to talk about the Chi machine, then he's going to talk about the hothouse, then he's going to talk about the liquid oxygen, Hydrogen Plus. And he's going to go into depth on each one of them, so it's going to be a pretty exciting day. And the video we're making, like I said, some of you missed it, we're making a professional video of this, and then we'll be reselling that video, so everybody, in case you missed something, you'll be able to get it on video later, so that's kind of exciting too, all right? And I don't want to take all the time because I want to give him as much time as possible, so I'd like to turn it over to Barbara, and this is Barbara Mollenhauer from Osseo. She's a foot massage therapist, and she has a few words to say. So
I also want to thank everyone for coming. We invited people today, and it looks like we've had a good turnout, and we really appreciate that. I guess what I would like to say is how I got into using the Chi machine in the hothouse is last November, well, all fall really, I was not feeling very well, and I knew that I should be out exercising, but I was busy with my business, and let's face it, I could find all kinds of excuses why I wasn't exercising, and I just wasn't feeling the best. So when Marlene talked to me about the Chi machine, it sounded really good to me, and I ordered one, and they told me it would be about 6 weeks until it came. And I thought, well, you know, that's breaks, I'll have to wait for it. But 2 days later, I had a heart attack. And the doctor wanted me in the hospital, but I said, no, I want to do this naturally. So I went home. I had a friend of mine come over that does reflexology. She worked on me for 5 hours that day. I took handfuls of herbs many times a day. I didn't work for about 3 weeks. And then I cut down, did start doing maybe 1 or 2 treatments a day. Anyway, I got the idea that I wanted that machine quick. And so I started calling upline, and I called up from them until I found someone that had an extra machine on hand. It was a doctor out in the state of New York, and he overnighted it to me. I reached him on a Friday. I had it UPS on Monday. I started using it, and you wouldn't believe the difference in how I felt. I would have a heavy feeling in my chest. I would feel just dragged down. I wasn't able to do anything. In fact, my doctor even forbid me to walk or exercise. And anyway, I got the machine, and I could just notice such a big difference each time I used it, and I'd use it like 3 times a day, just for a few minutes at a time. And since that time, I've been on a medication from the doctor. Right now, I'm taking 1/4 of the dose that I was taking, and he told me that I can go off it anytime I'm ready, that I feel that I'm ready. I feel really good. He's so surprised by my improvement that now he's even skeptical that there's something wrong, even anything wrong with my heart. So, like I said, I do a lot of herbs. I do reflexology. I do the Chi machine. I do the hothouse. Another thing is I'm diabetic. I had numbness in my feet and sharp pains. And within just a short time of using these machines, both of those are gone. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a brief idea of why I got into the Chi machine in the hothouse and what it's done for me, because I can only speak for myself. but we have many, many wonderful testimonials from people. I guess what I would like to do is ask, how many of you have a Chi machine? Great. So I'm sure you all have many good testimonials too, and maybe later we can hear some of those. Thank you again for coming, and I'd also like to thank Life Giving, Stan and Steve and Barb for providing this nice facility for us to have this meeting.
I will basically get into introducing Bill. Bill, back in January, I was sitting on a couch. Stan called, and I said, you know, Stan, there's a meeting up in Eau Claire today. I really would like to go. Stan says, well, let's go. And as it turned out, it was a blizzard. But we drove up in that blizzard. And when we got to the meeting, it turned out that he and I were the only ones at that meeting that, other than those that came down from Minneapolis. And so I wanted to say that Bill Niberlink put on such a fantastic meeting. You would have thought that room was full, like we're going to have here today, or we already have here today. And I know that you're all going to be very pleased with the presentation that he has for us. And it really is a miracle that we made it, because on the way home, the blizzard got worse, and Stan does not know slow. But we made it, and it's been a really good experience. Getting to know Stan and Steve and Barb here, and Barbara Moldenauer. I've lived up here in Fairchild for about 2 years now, and just around like-minded people, interested in teaching others the importance of making healthier choices. Bernard Jensen says, every day of our life, we're building health or building disease by what we are putting into our bodies. And now we have this opportunity to experience this Chi machine, which I think is a phenomenon I cannot even quite fully understand, except that results are what happens. And everyone that has their own Chi machine, my daughter's mother-in-law and father-in-law, Jerry and Joanne Ebert, are here today from Reedsville, and they are our upline, which we're real pleased that you came all this way. And Joanne had her testimony of insomnia, and even though I'd heard about this machine over a year prior to that, that was somebody I knew, and that was what made me say, maybe I'm going to look into this. And I'm very, very glad that I did. If I never sold a machine, I'm glad I have my Chi machine. So without further ado, I would like to bring Bill up here and thank him very, very much for coming today.
All I can say is, wow. What a exciting way to end up a most blessed week that we have had. My wife sitting over there in the back, her name is Wilma. I've got to tell you a little bit about her, okay? Behind every man that keeps going is usually a good woman, right? Well, I have one, and she is a registered nurse. She quit her job the end of last year to join me full-time in this business. And I was just getting too busy. I couldn't take care of the loose ends, and she has done that with me. Now, we have a pickup truck we travel around with, and behind that pickup truck we pull a fifth-wheel trailer. So we have a place to stay. Kind of nice, huh? Anyway, this week we started out our week by, first of all, seeing some people in Muscadet, Wisconsin. From Muscadet, we went down to Tampico, Illinois, then back up to Broadhead, Wisconsin, then over to Kelowna, Iowa, and then we got Thursday night off. Friday night we got off, and we're here today. But every place we went, we had rooms full of people. We met wonderful people. We established what hopefully will be lifelong friendships with people here on earth and in heaven, okay? And that is a blessing. But like I said in Kelowna, yeah, we're really excited to be here. And if I would ask you to take out a piece of paper and a pencil and write down the reasons why you think Wilma and I are excited about being here, I think you'd guess several of them. Okay? I can imagine some of you would write down, well, you're excited about meeting new people. Yeah. You're excited about making some money. Well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. The Bible says the workman is worthy of his hire, right? Making your business grow. But I don't know if you would guess the real number one reason why we're excited. And that is simply this. Invariably, when we come back to a place a month or two later, we bump into all kinds of people that were there earlier that say, wow, you know what? Aunt Ginny took this stuff that you advised her to do, and she used the machines, and her arthritis is better, and her cancer is all better, her skin cancer is gone, this and the other thing, and we hear the most incredible testimonies when we come back a short time later. And to be a part of that gives you a feeling over here and a realization that, hey, God works through His people, His wonders to perform, and you're a part of that plan. Now, can you think of anything more exciting than that? There isn't. We have a story, for instance, of a man back home. I'll give you this one quickly. Started to develop a very scratchy sore throat. Then it started to swell up over here in his lymph glands. He went to the local doctor called Dr. Nystrom back in Sioux Center, Iowa. He was checked over. They said, oh, looks bad. You're going to have to get to Rochester. They're going to have to take that stuff out because it's more than likely cancer. And the way it's situated over here, we can't guarantee you at all that you're going to have your voice box left when you come to. Now, who would like to go into surgery thinking that maybe your voice box is going to be gone when you come to? Not me, okay? I use it too much. Can you hear me in the back, by the way? If I see anybody going this way back, that means turn the volume up, okay? You got the signal language now. Usually, like I say, if someone waves their hand in the back and says they can't hear me, that's fine, but you're going to be the first one that's ever done that in one of my meetings, all right? Anyway, Roland Van Beek was a John Deere dealer over there in Sioux Center, Iowa, and he developed that problem. A scary problem. Would be for me, okay? Well, that Sunday in church, the pastor prayed for Roland. And one of the other parishioners sitting there heard that prayer and realized that Roland was in trouble. And he said to Roland, Roland, why don't you use, where did the thing go? The hothouse. Where did it go? Somebody got it? I thought I saw one sitting here a while ago. How many of you folks know what the hothouse is? Yeah, they said, why don't you use the hothouse? So Roland Van Beek started using the hothouse. In a short period of time, a little over a week before he had a chance to get to Rochester, the soreness in his throat went away. And the swelling went back down. And he felt real good again. And so you know what he did? He called up Rochester. Hello, Rochester, cancel my appointment. I don't need it no more. Well, Dr. Nystrom was looking over his schedule one day, and Roland Van Beek canceled his schedule in Rochester. He calls up Roland Van Beek, says, what'd you do that for? Well, he said, I don't need it no more. I feel good again. He said, you get in here. I want to check you over. He got in there, couldn't find the cancer back. Okay? Now, that was because one person took the responsibility upon his shoulders to tell Roland about a better way. And as a result of that today, Roland didn't have to go through surgery, and he has his voice box. Now, should the person who took that responsibility, will you think that would make him feel good? Of course. It makes me feel good if I can help you that way. It makes me feel real good if I come back here maybe a month or two from now, and you start telling me about your friends, yourself, your relatives that escaped a horrible operation, that doesn't have to take nasty drugs with side effects, and that you can instead have health and healing this way. Why? Because you're obedient to the laws of creation, the truth. That's how God created our bodies to exist. You see, today we're going to talk about some basic truth. We're going to talk about some basic laws of creation. How God made our bodies, okay? And He made our bodies that they have to have certain things. And they should not have other things. Simple. You know what he created us, how he created us, for example? He created those cells of our body. I'm going to give you one example now. And, of course, I look at one of these young people when I talk about this one, all right? One of these examples is God says the cells of our bodies have to have water. Not pop. Not too much coffee. Naughty me. Okay? Water. Okay? And what happens if we are disobedient to that law of creation? God's law. We get sick. Huh? We get sick. The cells of our body weren't made to run on that kind of gasoline. Now, those of you who are not familiar with the way I speak, I try to make complicated things so simple that I can understand them myself. Now, that gets to be a challenge, all right? And as a result of that, frequently I make analogies between the human body and mechanical things, because I'm kind of a mechanical nut myself, all right? I like things like that. And really, when you stop to analyze the human body, it compares so well with things that are much simpler than that we already understand. So I'm going to make a lot of those kind of analogies today. And what we're going to be talking about primarily is three things. All right? First of all, what we're going to be talking about is the importance and need for exercise in our life. Okay? The next thing we're going to talk about is the importance and need for sunshine in our life. The next thing we're going to talk about is the importance and need for air in our life. Air. Good, clean air. Why do we need air? What's in air that's so important to us? Oxygen. What about this exercise? What's so important about that? We're going to talk about that and the sunshine. Now, throughout all of this discussion, all right, what I'm going to try to do with you is share knowledge, all right? Now, let me assure you of one thing. I didn't always have this knowledge. When I was born, I was dumber than a bale of hay. Didn't know nothing, okay? Didn't know how to eat, didn't know how to drink, okay? Everything I know today, you know what? I learned from somebody else. Huh? Because someone else was nice enough to share with me what they know. Either by writing books, or I could study and listen to them through a variety of ways today. So I can't take credit for anything. And I shared this with a very lovely lady one day after she got done listening to one of these seminars. And she said, my, but you seem to know so much. I said, no, I can't take the credit for that. Because I didn't know a thing. Everything I'm going to share with you today, I learned from someone else, okay? So the first thing we're going to share knowledge with, which is, by the way, one of the greatest gifts that mankind can give to one another, is to share knowledge with each other. Now, I'm going to make a statement, and just for the fun of it, I want you folks to tell me which book this statement comes out of. It says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." The Bible. Which book of the Bible? Right. You got it. The young lady here says Hosea, right? The old prophet was running around. He saw his people going gluk, gluk, gluk down the drain, didn't he? And he realized that one of the reasons his people were having so much trouble in so many areas is they didn't know. They weren't stupid. They just didn't have the knowledge. And he was trying to give him that knowledge, weren't they? So today, because the situations that have developed upon this planet called Earth, upon which we reside, we have arrived at a situation where many areas are becoming critical. And we have to share that with each other, okay? My people perish for lack of knowledge. Then, once we have that knowledge, if we are intelligent, and who gives us the gift of intelligence? God. One of the greatest gifts we as mankind have received from our Creator, the sovereign God, is intelligence. Okay, man can share knowledge, all right, but God alone gives us the intelligence to use that, okay? Put that in the old central processor computer, all right, and use it. He says, come on now, let us reason together. Another quote from what book? The Bible, right. Come on, my people, let's reason together. And we hope today that one thing might occur as a result of your being here. That when you go home tonight, even if you choose to disregard the purchasing of any of this equipment or products, that you will be able to say one thing. My time was not wasted today. I'm glad I was here because I learned something. I now have acquired some knowledge, and that is the biggest good that I hope can come from this meeting, all right? So the first area in which we would like to share some information is in the area of exercise. Now, let's have an interesting little survey here a minute. How many people sitting in this room feel today that you are guilty of getting too much exercise? Look at all them hands, would you? Too much exercise. Oh, hey, I have to confess, did you see my hand go up? No. What have I been doing all week? Well, I've been walking around a little bit in front of people, but that don't take too much, all right? And the rest of the time, what have I been doing? Getting to the next place. I don't get to too much exercise. Well, there are two types and kinds of exercise that we can get into. One is called active exercise. This is active exercise. I'm actively walking, I'm doing my thing, okay? But we can also get now passive exercise, something kind of new. But there is a very profound benefit to be received from passive exercise. That's when we get on a little machine, we let the little machine do the work, huh? That's passive exercise. And that's what we want to talk about first of all, and that's this thing called a chi machine. How many in this room have not ever seen a chi machine before? Yeah, well, we're going to show it to you first then, all right? That's this little thing over here. Kind of a funny looking little outfit, all right? Can you see it? Somebody's resting on his tail. All right? The way you use this now is lie on the floor, on your back, and put your feet in these saddles, all right? And then when you start it up, it moves back and forth that way. Now, if you're anything like me, and you walk into a room and you see somebody lying on the floor with a chi machine getting wiggled, you look at that and you say, well, that's dumb. That really looks stupid. All right, there he's laying on the floor, a rational human being, adult, feet going this way, tummy going this way. And if you're like me, that's quite a bit, all right? That's going back and forth, and the spine is going back and forth, and the head is being wiggled, all right? This machine is covered with patents in 5 different countries, okay, because Dr. Inouye, who invented it, was very careful to get this machine designed so it would work in the best way for the human body. I don't think we have to go into that in detail. Just rest assured of the fact it's patented also in the United States. Now, how many of you folks not only own a chi machine, but you have attempted to talk to somebody else about it? Okay. How many of you folks had the same kind of experience I had when I first started? And I go to good old Joe and I say, Joe, you really ought to have one of these. And Joe says, really? Why? And I go, because it's good for you. I don't know what to say. All right. How many of you folks have had that? All right. So I developed a little formula here that's very easy to remember. How many of you folks like to see that? What I can tell Joe why he should have it. Not just sit there with my mouth full of teeth and say it's good for you. Obviously, he knows I think that or I wouldn't have bought it, right? Well, here's my little formula. The first thing I do is I tell them about the machine invented by Dr. Inouye. Dr. Inouye got this brilliant idea because he looked at goldfish swimming around. He thought, hey, they don't get a lot of the naughty things like we get, okay? I wonder if we would do the same thing with the human being that the goldfish does, if that would be good for him. What does the goldfish do that the human being does not do? Well, his spine is this way, okay? The human being's spine is this way. Dr. Inouye knew, for instance, that the human spine has a problem which develops as a result of gravitational pull. All right? Even though you're sitting right now and I'm standing, the gravitational pull is still affecting both of us negatively in some ways on our spine. This is why. All right? If this is the old noggin up on top, and we got all these vertebrae down here below as things go on, like that way. All right? Now, there's something located in between those vertebrae. What is that? Cartilage. Just between there, right? Okay. Now, as a result of these vertebrae grinding upon one another with gravitational pressure all the time, as we get older, that cartilage starts to get thinner and thinner, okay? As a result of that, right now, Mr. Bill is about an inch shorter than when he graduated from high school. Well, that's nice. I can get through a shorter door now, can't I? All right. But I didn't really need that help. But there's a bad thing that results from that. You know why? You heard me call this thing a while ago central processor computer generator, didn't you? Generator? Well, what does it generate? It generates electrical currents, very minute, very small. Okay, there is no muscle in my body, no organ in my body that does anything until a signal comes from the central processor computer generator. And it sends those signals right on down a whole system of what we call nerves. Here they come, all the way down to different parts of our body. Now, I said they're electrical. I want to give you one good example of that, all right? Right over here, we got an organ in our body. What's that thing called? Heart, okay? Now, what I'm telling you is this heart would never beat a single stroke if it didn't get the message from here to do it, okay? Now, as proof of that, I'm going to ask you this question. All right, old Bill's getting a little older, all right? And this thing ain't going the way it should no more, all right? So I go to my doctor, MD, and he cuts a little slit in here, and he sticks a little thing in there. What does he call that? A pacemaker. What kind of energy does that put into my heart to make it work? Electrical. Because for some reason or other, the electrical signal in between here and there isn't coming through good no more, all right? Therefore, they say, blessed be the pacemakers, right? Where does that come from? She corrected me. It was supposed to be peacemakers, okay? I stand corrected. So, there is evidence of the fact that everything comes electrically. If I say to my arm consciously, arm go up, electrical message comes down, all right? If I say to my arm go down, electrical messages comes here to affect the muscles to pull it down. If I say muscles walk, electrical messages, all right? Because we're going to cover that again and again and again today. That's why I want you folks to clearly understand that nothing happens today, including when you blink your eyes, all right? But it's electrical. Our body electric, okay? And that's critically important that we understand that with all of the equipment we're going to talk about relative to exercise, sunshine, and air, okay? And I'd love to explain that because it's all integrated together in one complete package for us, all right? So, once I understand this about the spine and the problem that results, because as this cartilage begins to shrink, guess what gets pinched? The telephone wires, okay? And when the telephone wires get pinched, hello, who's there? Say it again, please. Hello, can't hear you, who's there? When the telephone wires get pinched, messages don't get through, okay? And ticker don't work so good no more. Liver and kidneys may not work so good no more. Can't walk so good no more. Get sore in the back again because what's happening? Lack of circulation to, and we can't get the nutrients to that area of the body. Neither can we get the contaminants away. We're going to talk a lot about that too, okay? Because every organ of our body and every little tiny square inch of flesh and bone is serviced by what? Blood, okay? Blood. I had a guy tell me once, if you don't believe that blood goes to every inch of your body, take a pin, poke it in, and then take it out and squeeze. Well, you'll find blood, okay? Blood, all right? That's another thing we're going to come back to. Blood services every area. That's how it brings nutrition to the cell and takes away the metabolic waste from the cell. We'll talk a lot more about that pretty soon. We want to get some basic principles down here first, all right? Now, Dr. Inouye says the problem here is developed right in this area in the spine because as we get older, that starts to get worn out and shrinks, and the telephone wires get pinched, and the nerves don't go through so good anymore because we always are vertical. We're always getting that pressure. Now, he said, what would happen if we would take that same old feller and put him on his back on the floor on a chi machine and let that chi machine gently wiggle and exercise that spine. Now there's no gravitational pressure there, and those vertebrae can separate a little bit, and when they separate a little bit, New messages can get through that haven't gotten through there for a long time, okay? And it provides a tremendous benefit to the spine, number one, okay? So, how do we find evidence of that? How do we find proof of that? How many of you guys, again, have a chi machine? How many of you guys have experienced the chi effect when the chi machine stops? Ooh, it feels good. It tingles all over, right? Now, what is tingling a sign of? What happens to you when you have fallen asleep on your arm like this way, and you wake up and you say, oh, my arm's sleeping. Oh, it feels terrible. It's tingling and it's pricking and everything else. You know what that's a sign of? When you fell asleep on your arm, you shut off the flow and circulation to your arm, and when that was restored, it pricks and it tingles. That's one very important body sensation that we're going to talk about more again today, all right? So, when you're lying on that chi machine, you don't think nothing's happening first, don't you? But when it shuts off and you feel tingle, ooh, like electricity going through your body, that shows you that you have received a marvelous benefit at that point in time, okay? Now, that's one thing. We talked about the middle area first. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is simply this. I always remember that. What do I put on the machine? My legs, right? That starts with what letter? Brilliant, isn't it? Okay. Al should be a reminder for you to talk about two more things that start with L, okay? So I try to remember that. First of all, number one, legs go on the machine. That's obvious. But number two, A, we should talk then about the lymph fluids. The body has a whole system of lymph glands. They secrete a fluid. They have to be exercised. They should be in motion and be able to get them out of our body, okay? Now, the lymph fluids do not have a pump like the blood. The only way the lymph fluids can be exercised and eliminated is through exercise. Right now, my lymph fluids are getting exercises. Yours aren't, okay? Because you're sitting there like a bump on a log while I'm getting my lymph fluids exercised, okay? So that's one good advantage. When we lie in the machine on our back, our legs are horizontal, even up a little bit. When that machine's going this way, it helps marvelously to get the lymph fluid out, okay? Can you see the benefit of that? Huh? How many people have experienced swollen up legs, and they find great help with that, with a chi machine, right? Well, now we have, that's one L. Now we got to have another L yet. And this L is B, lactic acid. How many of you folks in this room have had a problem with lactic acid? Oh, I see a few hands going up. I'm going to ask that question a little bit different, and we'll see how many people put their hands up. How many of you people have ever had this happen in your life, okay? You've been relatively sedate. That means you haven't been moving around as much as you should. You guys, none of you raised your hands when I asked you, are you getting too much exercise, okay? Now you've been relatively sedate, and then one day Mama says, say, the state fair is going on. Let's go, shall we? You see, sounds like a good idea. So you go to the state fair, and there you meet Dick and Minnie, the neighbors, and you walking all over the place, and you trounce all over the place. You go here, you go there, you walk all around, and the next day when you get back home again, you say, oh, my, I can sure tell I haven't been doing that for a while. I can feel it in my legs. How many of you folks ever had an experience like that? Yeah, look at all the hands go up now. Do you know what you had problem with? Lactic acid buildup, all right? Now, when you get that little chi machine and you use it faithfully, you will keep that lactic acid out. You will keep that circulation going. You will keep those channels open. So that even if you haven't been walking around a whole lot and Mama says, let's go to the state fair tomorrow, you can walk around and the feet won't get nearly as stiff the next day. Is that a nice benefit? Yeah, you bet it is, because every once in a while we get those spurts, don't we, when we've been sitting around too much. So continued use of the chi machine can do so much to keep those muscles opened up and relaxed. And now we're going to talk about the last great benefit I'd like to mention quickly, and that is simply this, all right? Our brain. But I don't like to call it a brain. That sounds complicated. So I always call it what? The central processor computer generator, right? That tells you what it does, okay? Now, that thing is created in two halves, called the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, okay? Now, I'm going to use a word and see how many of you folks know what that word is. Our brains are redundant. You know what I mean by that? That's a funny name, but Okay, redundancy simply means if there's a spot here that goes owie, there's a spot here that can take over that function. Okay? And you know what greatly influences the brain to do that? Is physical exercise. Now, when I'm laying on the floor and that chi machine is wiggling my legs, and my legs are wiggling my pelvic bone, and my pelvic bone is wiggling my backbone, and my backbone is wiggling my head bone, and it's going back and forth like that way, it's forcing a left to right hemisphere brain connection. And an interrogation takes place. And the brain says, hey, over here, you not feeling so good? No, not feeling so good. Well, I can take over here, okay? And it happens. There was a man in Alaska, my friend Ed over there. He sold him a chi machine. Man had had a stroke. Couldn't walk anymore. The damage was here, but the foot didn't work. Why? Because the part of the generator that was supposed to send electrical current down here when he would ask his foot to work wasn't generating no more. When the generator won't gin, the foot won't work, okay? And so he walked this way, had to slide his foot along. He got the chi machine. What was it, Ed, about 6 weeks later? About 6 weeks later, the man could walk. Why? Because when he was laying on the floor there getting the chi machine going this way, he said, you owie? Yeah, I'm owie. I'll take over. Okay? And he could walk. The redundancy of the brain. It forces brain balancing. That's why those of you who have a chi machine may have noticed that if you come home from a big day of work and you take your chi machine treatment, oh, doesn't that feel good? Doesn't that refresh you and invigorate you? It does me. I like it that way, okay? That's why it does so much good. One last little thing yet. They did a test, and that's really important. I want to mention this because I'm going to come back to it pretty soon, and that is they took 27 people, okay? Now, how many of you folks have ever heard of an oximeter? That's this little thing they put on your finger, and it tells you what your blood oxygen content is, okay? They did 27 people before and after the chi machine, okay? 21 of the 27 people showed a blood oxygen increase, an average of 2%, okay? Remember that now, because I'm going to ask you pretty soon. It showed a blood oxygen increase of 2%. Why would the blood oxygen go up when you're laying flat on your back getting wiggled? It goes up simply because of this. When your feet are being shaken back and forth and your abdomen's going back and forth all the time, okay, what happens there is you get an increase in circulation. The blood going through the lungs a little bit because it can wiggle through, okay? And when you have more blood going through the lungs, you're going to have a greater exchange of oxygen. So the blood oxygen went up ever so slightly, okay? 2%, but that's significant, okay? Now, I said that was the last thing I'm going to mention, but I've got to tell you one more thing. Briefly, because I'm really going to elaborate on this more pretty soon, when you're getting wiggled back and forth over here, I always tell the folks now, you're going to see that middle getting flopped around a little, okay? Looks pretty funny when you see somebody else on there, but rest assured of one thing, if you see me doing that, this isn't all fat, okay? Because down underneath there, you got what? Kidneys, liver, a lot of other organs of the body. Now, we're going to hit this one really hard pretty soon. Tell me the kidneys and the liver are alike in two respects. In one respect primarily. Okay, what is that? What do they both do? Cleansers. They filter the what? Blood, okay? Now, if I'm laying there on the floor, and these filters are no different than the filter on your car, okay? The car has a process of combustion which creates carbon, doesn't it? And we have a filter to take that out. Eventually, what happens to the filter on your car? Yeah, it gets dirty, okay? And it has to be changed. What do you think happens to your kidneys and your liver? They fill up too. That is a very prevalent problem we have anymore. You know why? Because I can't go down to the corner station and say, give me a new kidneys and a new liver and change my blood. Don't work, all right? And so we have to depend on natural ways to clean out that yuck and that gunk, okay? Now, folks, when you lay on that floor on that chi machine, and that chi machine shaking you back and forth, and that stuff starts to come out, where does it go? First of all, what carries all the nutrition to your cells and carries the waste away? I said it a while ago. Blood. So when you loosen these contaminants, where does it go first of all? Blood. Does that cause you to become toxic? Yeah. How are you going to feel then first for a while? We're going to cover this again pretty soon. When toxic blood hits this, not so good. When it hits here, not so good. When it hits here, not so good. We'll cover that more after a while, because that is such an important thing to remember. And that is, if a product or a piece of equipment is worth anything, what's going to happen to you is exactly the same thing old Sam Beiser says with Richard Schultz. Okay? What does Sam Beiser say? He says, hey, while you're going through this process of detoxification, he says, the first 4 months, patients usually feel pretty lousy before they get cleaned out. The body is cleansing out and regrowing. So it is entirely possible that for the first while after you get a chi machine, you say, yeah, it works kind of good for something, but really I kind of feel sort of not so good either. Detoxification. We've got something else we're going to talk about in a little bit that does this much, much more yet, okay? And so if there's any one thing that I would like to share with you today is that we might thoroughly understand what's happening in this process called detoxification. How many of you have heard of that word, detoxification? Well, by the time you leave here today, you're going to be hopefully experts on what that word means. And it's just not going to be a thing in your head anymore. You're going to know what's going on all the way through, okay? Because that is critically important. And I make this statement, detoxification important, you better believe it. Do you want to clean it out now and go through maybe 3 or 4 months of not feeling quite so good? Or do you want to continue to let it build up and, like Dr. Hulda Clark says, have it become one of the 2 major causes of all diseases? In the opening part of her book, Dr. Clark says, I believe all diseases are caused by, well, let's not use those complicated words she uses, shall we? Let's reduce it to something simple. You like that? You know what she says every sickness is caused by? Have you ever heard of bugs? Yeah, that's number 1. Have you ever heard of dirt? That's number 2. Bugs or dirt. Okay? Now, either get them out now and return to health and not feel so good first for a while, or keep them. You know where bugs like to build nests? In dirt. Okay? You keep them, they are going to become the primary habitation and source of all these diseases with these funny long names. What do I call? Fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, cancer, Alzheimer's, bugs and dirt. Okay? Bugs and dirt. By the time we finish today, you won't forget those 2 words, bugs and dirt. We're going to reduce this into something simple, okay? We don't have to have real complicated knowledge of this. Just know basically what it is and how to get rid of it, right? Do you want bugs or dirt in your body? Me neither. Am I willing to pay a price of 4 months of misery to get it out? Yes, okay? So that's the chi machine, folks. It helps get bugs and dirt out of your body in a process called detoxification. That is probably the most critical step that we have to take before anything can do us good, is to detoxify. And we're going to get into that more a little bit later. But I've covered the major